Our President, we do have a quorum. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. For those who are in attendance, I would ask if you have a noise-making device to turn it to silent mode so not to interfere with our electronic communications. We do have a couple of proclamations which I want to present this morning, and we'll do so at this time. Our first proclamation is to recognize National Volunteer Appreciation Week from April 17 to April 23rd, and I'm going to ask Amber Slater to join me at the podium. She is a supervisor for volunteers at our library. And do you have someone else with you would like to introduce?
I do. I have Brandy Hodges from Aging and Human Services.
Okay, Brandy, come on up. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but we have literally thousands of volunteers who assist the county every year. I think on our boards and commissions, we have 312 who volunteer to support those formal activities. And I know the library has hundreds of volunteers who work in the library and support the library through the foundation, et cetera. We have other foundations for department agencies, and Meals on Wheels, that's carried out by volunteers. And I was told the other day that the count is total. We have something like 11,000 volunteers assisting the county. And without that assistance, our service level would be much, much less. So, Amber, I'm going to present this proclamation to you in honor of all of those volunteers who assist our county. And if you'd like to make a comment or two, that's fine.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman Eiler and Commissioners. My name is Amber Bork Slater, and I'm the Volunteer Services Coordinator for Johnson County Library. I'm here today representing all of the Johnson County government volunteer coordinators. This group consists of 11 departments and agencies, including Aging and Human Services, Corrections, Developmental Supports, the District Attorney's Office, Election Office, Emergency Management, Extension Office, Health and Environment, Library, Parks and Recreation, and our Sheriff's Department. In honor of this week being National Volunteer Appreciation Week, I want to share a few details about our wonderful volunteers. In 2021, as Commissioner said, over 11,000 volunteers helped us, and they provided 242,406 hours of service. And the economic impact of that is over $6,918,253. So huge amount. Here are just a few of the ways that the volunteers helped us, and you mentioned a few of them, but volunteers helped us at the Ernie Miller Nature Center and as docents at our nationally accredited Johnson County Museum. They served as volunteer master gardeners, managing 9 demonstration gardens and providing horticulture education for our residents. In corrections, volunteers provided classes and support groups for our incarcerated residents. Trained storm spotter volunteers helped us correctly identify and relay critical information during severe weather. Volunteers delivered hundreds of meals every day to our homebound seniors, drove vulnerable residents to medical appointments, and operated food pantries for some of our families who needed a little help. Our district attorney volunteers served as victim assistance advocates. Our high school students learned about democracy by working the polls on Election Day. Developmental support volunteer performers and facilitators provide enriching programming for the people in our residential facilities. Our Sheriff's Department had volunteers who went through a very extensive Citizens Academy. Volunteers provided COVID testing supplies and helped us manage large-scale vaccination events for hundreds of thousands of residents last year. And of course, the library, I do want to mention those wonderful volunteers. They helped us shelve books holds for easy patron pickup, as well as facilitating virtual language learner classes. So we are so lucky to live in a community where people want to support our government. I will say I started before I was an employee as a volunteer with our elections department. So I'm really proud to be here and to be working with our wonderful volunteers. It really is what makes this place a great place to live and work. So thank you so much for honoring our volunteers.
Well, thank you very much. You know, Amber, thank you very much for identifying the many different ways that our volunteers provide important service to all of our community. So thank you to all those volunteers. Your work is recognized, it's important, and thank you very much. So, thank you. And Eric will take a photo here if you open up the.
Thank you
Thanks
so
again.
much.
Thank you for being here. And next, I'm going to ask Leah Greene to come to the podium. I have a proclamation recognizing National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, Communications Week, and Leah is one of the supervisors in our telecommunications area, and so I'm going to ask her to introduce the folks that are with her, and if she'd like to make some comments, well, that would be fine.
Yeah, so Kate Dorsey is our operations manager.
Come on up.
Gall Wash is our quality manager, and then Grady Victory is our training manager.
Okay. Any other comments you'd like to make in regards to the week or the activities?
The only thing that I'd like to
Excuse me, could you move to the mic?
The only thing that I'd like to say is thank you very much for the recognition on behalf of all of our supervisors, our managers, and all of us dispatchers that work on the floor. It's not an easy job, but we really appreciate the recognition, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I think we all recognize that the importance of the work that you do and perhaps some of the stresses that you operate under during your time of service. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And glad that you're here. And we're glad to recognize your efforts. So if you can kind of turn around this way, and Eric. Thanks again,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. At this time, we will turn to the public comment portion of our agenda. We do have several speakers this morning, several by virtual. Your comments are limited to 2 minutes, and if your comments run over the 2-minute period, then the chair will be required to ask you to conclude those comments. For those who are speaking in person this morning, there is a modem on the podium which will track the time, so you can observe that. And so let's hear from the first speaker.
Virtually, we have Stephanie Berlin is on the list. She is not online. We will go to Joyce Whittier. Joyce Whittier.
Ms. Whittier?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you speak up just a little?
Okay. My comments are about the chairman and vice chairman of the Planning Commission. Both of them have undisclosed conflict of interest that need to be addressed by the Ethics Advisory Board before any further action is taken on the solar facility. The Code of Ethics for Johnson County government requires any public official who has a conflict to abstain from all discussions and voting. Yet both these men ignored their conflicts and participated in all discussions and voting until November of 2021. Mr. Iliff has worked with John Peterson, the attorney for NextEra, on the board of directors and the legal team at Miracle of Innocence since 2019. The Form 990 filed by Miracle of Innocence in 2020 shows that Mr. Iliff was the executive director of the board and John Peterson was the chairman. The Code of Ethics defines a conflict as one being through friendships or association with groups, and clearly this meets the criteria for a conflict. In addition to serving on the Planning Commission, Mr. Hutchins is also president of the Johnson County Farm Bureau. In the latter capacity, he has admitted to having ex parte communications since 2019 with landowners about signing leases with NextEra that were never disclosed. The members of the Planning Commission were given a seminar on how to avoid litigation by Rick Lind, and one of the things he told them they should not do is have ex parte communications and also no conflicts of interest. The Planning Commission decided not to tape the March meeting, so members of the public did. It is obvious to anyone who has participated in a meeting that Mr. Iliff does not have the time or temperament to chair a committee. He was rude to the public and other commissions at public hearings since August of 21. He should be replaced with someone who can fairly and honestly chair these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Now we have Cassie Woolworth. Cassie Woolworth.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. I'm going to make this very short. I am here to say that you should do the solar. Renewable energy is the wave of the future. It will fix the planet. If you continue to do fossil fuels, you will kill the planet. We have an opportunity right now to do solar energy. If you give them the latitude to put it in for 25 years, the companies will do the investment. The companies can be responsible. You have laws in place to make that happen. You need to go with solar. Wind is now 43%. In 2020 was 43% of all of the electricity across Kansas. That is only second to Iowa. 43% of our energy is renewable. Let's get solar in and make it much, much cleaner. The air, the earth, and energy independence. I am looking for energy independence. You know what hasn't gone up during the epidemic and during all of the masking? Wind. Wind and sun have not increased in price. So if you guys would put forth the effort to give us options on really great solar farms for really extended period of times, I would really appreciate it, as would the earth. I want renewable energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Carrie Brandon. Carrie Brandon.
Ms. Brandon.
Carrie, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Hello, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Speak up just a little bit.
Okay. Okay, sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good morning. I was on an airplane last Monday, April 4th, and so I was frustrated I wasn't able to be at the solar regulations public hearing at the Embassy Suites, but I did watch the recording in its entirety. And, I was pretty disappointed to see that the planning staff, STAF, presented alternative recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners that kind of really undermined the recommendations that the Planning Commission that you appointed worked so hard on for the last, year or so that they voted on to recommend to you. So one question I have is, why is the planning staff, I'm curious about this, presenting solar regulation recommendations to you all? The staff is not the appointed decision-making body for drafting and making recommendations to the BOCC. It's actually the Planning Commission board members that you all have appointed and entrusted to provide you with that guidance. So Chairman Eiler, if you could follow up with me and the citizens in Johnson and Douglas counties too on this and answer that question just by emailing us at getinvolved@westgardner.com. Then moving on, This is what I uploaded as written comment, and you guys can take a look at it, all the commissioners, as you have time. But we have not seen an effort to think and plan more strategically with regards to responsible siting. And I'm talking about the siting for utility scale solar power facilities. So, this is something that for some reason, it's our perception that county officials across the board are seemingly being influenced and are just promoting one school of thought for utility scale solar siting. And so that being said, we are asking you, and again, Chairman Eiler, if you can make public request in the next 7 days and post it on the Johnson County website to ask all of the large industry at the Burlington Northern Freight Intermodal Kansas City Logistics Park to step up and collaborate with energy companies to create rooftop
Hey,
warehouse.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to
scrap-
ask you to conclude. Thank you very much. Next.
Now in person, we have Ben Hobart. Ben Hobart.
Ben Hobart, Westwood Hills. This board's April 2021 strong recommendation for Johnson Countyans to get the COVID-19 vaccines remains in place, despite the fact that no one on this board is licensed physician authorized to practice the healing arts in the state of Kansas. With every passing day, the evidence of adverse effects from the clot shots and limited efficacy of the clot shots grows. In Israel, a study of healthcare workers receiving the clot shot showed so-called vaccine efficacy of the Pfizer-BioNTech gene therapy of only 30% and of Moderna 11%, not a level to instill confidence in anyone. Recently, nonetheless, the FDA and CDC approved a fourth clot shot with neither the FDA's or the CDC's advisory committee meeting. Two members of the advisory committee stated there isn't sufficient data to support that decision. A third member, Paul Offit of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, told The Atlantic that he advised his 20-something son to forego the third shot, which the FDA recommends for everyone over the age of 12. The CDC approved the fourth dose hours after the FDA gave its go-ahead, once again without their advisory committee weighing in. Throw cautious deliberation out the window. Heck, it's just the public's lives at risk. A study posted at the CDC's website on March 11, 2022, found 2 doses of the Pfizer clot shots reduced the risk of Omicron infection by 31%. Fully vaccinated participants with Omicron infection spent an average of 1/2 day less sick in bed than did unvaccinated participants with Omicron infection. Weigh that limited efficacy against the adverse events of the clot shots and no long-term study data. 96 deaths, 401 permanently disabled, and 1,255 cases of myocarditis among children 5 to 17. Johnson Countyans, educate yourself about the relative risks and rewards of the clot shots. Further, I hope you all have a blessed Easter Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie Berlin is now on virtually. We will bring Stephanie Berlin for comment.
Okay.
Stephanie, can you unmute yourself, please?
Ms. Berlin cannot hear you.
Okay, just a minute. Can you hear me now?
I hear you now, yes.
Okay,
Proceed,
Stephanie
yes.
Berlin, 972 East 121st Place, Olathe, Kansas. As you may know, I have made comments many times on various financial items since 2019, mostly on property assessments and the need for internal financial auditing. I am a full-time working citizen of the 5th District, and I have grave concerns over the spending and conflicts of interest within this organization. Recently, I've thrown my hat into the ring as a candidate for the 5th District, and if elected, will demand more oversight and the need for an enforceable code of ethics that details and defines what a conflict of interest is. I know recently the Charter Commission had a chair that not only negotiated the county manager's contract, but has made contributions to some of your campaigns. This is unacceptable on so many levels. Now with no charter resolutions on the ballot in November, we have to wait another 10 years. There is an audit committee meeting coming up, and we have not received any reports for months, and $1 million is budgeted to this department. Where are they? What is going on? Lastly, go out and visit the people whose land would be affected by the solar plant. Charlotte O'Hara has been the only one, and it had been much appreciated. You need to see what will happen by your motions last week to clear the way for solar farms. Years ago, our family had the same issue in Western Kansas with wind turbines. As a family, we voted no, basically because we didn't want a 747 on our parents' land. No amount of shrubbery will cover that monster. We have no regrets on that decision. You owe it to your constituents to know their concerns. We need to demand better in the 5th District.
Okay, next, please.
Now we have in person Richard Gall. Richard Gall.
Howdy.
Morning.
You have a couple articles in front of you
Sir,
that you
could
may
you
have.
state, would you, for the record, please state your name and address?
Richard L. Gall, 38400 West 183 Street, Edgerton, Kansas, 66021.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, howdy.
Howdy again.
You have a couple articles in front of you, and you may have already read them if you subscribe to the Kansas City Star. That's where I got them. And they have to do with global warming, and boy, to me, they were really, really interesting. I hope that someday in the, I'll say near future, but in the future, I can tell people that I live in Johnson County, Kansas, where there is a solar project, and we're working at trying to slow down global warming. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That completes our public comments.
All right, the public comment portion of our agenda is concluded. I do have 2 or 3 notes for the record. I will be signing the following administrative resolution number WD 22-015, enlarging the privately financed sewer district and provide for the assessment of all applicable fees, charges, and levies of the consolidated main sewer district in the vicinity of 160th Street and 160th Terrace, and a full release of easement for the consolidated main sewer district due to the removal of sanitary sewer lines in the vicinity of Ridgeview Road and 99th Street in the city of Lenexa. And finally, 2 full and 1 partial release of easements for the consolidated main sewer district due to the removal of sanitary sewer lines in the vicinity of Quivira Road and 75th Street in the city of Shawnee. That concludes notes for the record. We'll move to the consent agenda. Would the clerk please read the proposed consent agenda items?
Item number 1, consider approving the March 24th, 2022 business session minutes. Item number 2, consider ratifying the reappointment of Jack Poole, Chairman's Representative to the Board of Code Review through May 31st, 2024. Item number 3, consider ratifying the reappointment of Scott W. Hazlitt, Chairman's Representative to the Board of Code Review through May 31st, 2024. Item number 4, consider ratifying the reappointment of Stephen Biscat, Chairman's Representative to the Board of Code Review through May 31st, 2024. Item number 5, consider ratifying the reappointment of Robert Bob Willis, Chairman's Representative to the Board of Code Review through May 31st, 2025. Item number 6, request for proposal, RFP 2020-045. Consider authorizing a contract extension with Witt O'Brien's LLC, expending the remaining balance of $130,150 from the original contract authorization for COVID-19 disaster recovery consulting services through the federal, state, and local fiscal recovery fund SLFRF grant period ending December 31st, 2024. Item number 7, IFB number 2022-018, consider authorizing a contract with Superior Bowen Asphalt Company, LLC, for 14.5 miles of overlays at various locations in unincorporated Johnson County in an amount not to exceed $3,398,995. And item number 8, consider approving an agreement with Miami County, Kansas for the use of the County Communications Center, CCC, as a backup for Miami County's Communications Center.
Thank you. Is there any commissioner who would like to have an item considered separately? Ms. O'Hara?
Yes, I just have a couple of questions on number 6.
All right, we'll hold that one. Any other? Is there anyone present who would like to have an item considered separately? If not, do I hear a motion to approve all those items with the exception of number 6?
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to approve all items except for number 6.
Hanslick, second.
Alan Brand made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the items presented on the consent agenda with the exception of item number 6. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fast. Aye. Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Allen Brand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Item number 6, Commissioner O'Hara, you had a question?
Yes. I was just curious, since we have rescinded our executive order on any COVID requirements for our employees and that we have no public health orders in place, what is this $130,150 going to go to?
Sure, it's more about assisting us with guidance and being in compliance with the rules and regulations around the SLFRF funding.
Okay.
We have about $117 million that we're going to be programming over the next few years.
It's keeping us on the rails.
That's exactly
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, do I hear a motion to approve that item? Ms. Hanslick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to authorize a contract extension with Witt O'Brien's LLC, expending the remaining balance of $130,150 from the original contract for COVID-19 disaster recovery consulting services through the Federal, State, and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, SLFRF, grant period ending December 31st, 2024, per RFP 2020-045.
Myers, second.
Hanslick made the motion. Meyer seconded the motion to approve the item as requested for the proposal with Will O'Brien, as noted. Any further questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ashcraft?
clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Jones, is that an amount up to, or will we definitely spend the entire 100?
It's an up to.
Okay.
Over the past 2 years, we've spent approximately $20,000, so.
That's what I thought. It just wasn't clear on the briefing sheet. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, clerk, please call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Allen Brand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Moving to the action agenda, be item number 9.
Resolution number 006-22, consider whether to approve and adopt resolution number 006-22 to authorize and direct the issuance, sale, and delivery of taxable general obligation internal improvement bonds, Series 2022A, WIFIA, of Johnson County, Kansas, for the purpose of providing funds to finance certain wastewater improvements in an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $281,456,000, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said bonds as they become due, and making certain covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain other documents and actions connected therewith.
It's my understanding that the EPA is involved in this transaction and is not in a position to approve for an unknown period of time. Is that right?
Yes, this is Leslie Friedel from Budget and Financial Planning, and we, late last Thursday after our board meeting here, we got word that the EPA and the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, which is also reviewing the documents, were not going to be ready to finalize until later this month or possibly the very 1st of May.
So I think the motion needs to be to continue this item for an indefinite period of time until we have clarification from the federal government.
Yes, I talked to Kevin Wimpy, our bond counsel, and that is what he recommends as well, that we just defer action until date uncertain, and then I will come back at a later time, hopefully with good news. And we can finalize this in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve to defer the item of resolution number 006-22 to a date uncertain.
Hanslick, second.
Allenbrand made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to defer this item to a date uncertain for the reasons involving consideration of federal agencies. Any further questions or comments? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion to defer carried.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 10, consider authorizing a contract with Johnson Controls Fire Protection, LP, for fire protection services in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for a 1-year term with 4 optional annual renewals per National Association of State Procurement Officials, NASPO, Contract 3407.
Mr. Waters.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Waters, Assistant County Manager, Interim Facilities Director. As we discussed last week, this is a recommendation to utilize Johnson Controls Company for fire protection services for the county through a cooperative agreement. Just as a reminder, this replaces 7 different vendors that we utilize in piecemeal fashion around a variety of 52 different locations. That has worked satisfactorily in the past, but the record keeping gets more and more significant, and the importance and the complexity of our fire protection systems just continues to grow. These are I won't get into all the detail of the systems that it manages. However, they are fundamental to the safety of our occupants, our visitors, and the protection of these county assets. There were we had some good conversation last week on the cost. There were some questions around the replacement and repairs component of the work that is potentially included should those repairs be needed. The hourly rates that were, of course, competitively procured through this, but we also took an extra step of checking nearly a dozen different vendors who are in similar lines of work from work that we have bid in the past and other state agencies have, and found these prices to be very competitive, and in fact, against their head-to-head competitor, Johnson Controls was significantly under in all 3 of these hourly categories for alarm detection, sprinklers, and suppression and extinguishers. So with that, I'd stand for any questions.
Mr. Waters, just a point of clarification. This contractor will not provide fire engines or personnel to come to fight the fire, but this will be to monitor all the fire protection systems in county buildings, make sure they're operating and up to date. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is for the 52 buildings that are under the management of the facilities department, and we built in a little bit of extra dollars in this annual amount so that wastewater and Parks and Recreation and others, should this contract work for them, that they could also access it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I had the opportunity to visit with Mr. Waters and his staff yesterday, and I wanted to thank Mr. Waters and his staff for giving me some additional information. His summary, I think, satisfied my concerns, because I did not see in the briefing sheet what the potential cost impact would be on the hourly rates, and I appreciate very much the extra step. One clarification, because over the 5-year potential term of this agreement, is there an escalation clause in the hourly rates, or is this what's anticipated? You're shaking your head.
These hourly rates are locked in.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, other questions? Ms. Allenbrand?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion when you're ready.
All right, are there any other questions? Ms. Hanslick?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Waters and Facilities for bringing this forward and for being so scrupulous about making sure that our buildings are safe. When I was the director at Safe Home, we had to do the same thing every year, and it's so critical. It's one of those things people don't realize goes on behind the scenes to make sure that the fire suppression system is in top working order, that even the simple things like the fire extinguishers are working. And it's one of those things that's behind the scenes. It does cost money, but it is critical to keeping people safe in those buildings. So thank you for your work in getting us the best price and consolidating these services to save money. So thank you.
I will share that with the department who did it.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? All right, if not, it's back before the commission. Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would also like to make a comment before I make this motion. In my past lifetime owning and operating state and federal licensed communities, this is very important, and if you ever have one of these go off when they're not, it's not fun. So thank you for all your work. With that, I move to authorize a contract with Johnson County Controls Fire Protection, LP, for fire protection services in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for 1-year term with 4 optional annual renews per National Association of State Procurement Officials, NASPO, contact 3407.
Hanslick, second.
Allenbrand made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to approve authorizing the contract with Johnson Controls in regards to the fire protection services as recommended. Any further questions or comments? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Are there any other items?
No, sir.
All right, moving to reports and communications. Ms. Postoke Ferguson.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. We have a number of items this morning. First is a piece of good news. I am pleased to announce that Johnson County has achieved LEED Gold certification for Johnson County. You've heard this for specific buildings, but LEED, or Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, is the world's most widely used green rating system for recognizing sustainability and resilience efforts. Johnson County is just the 25th local government in the world to achieve this community certification. And Brian Alferman, Sustainability Program Manager, is here today to share more about this achievement.
Brian?
Good morning. Thanks, Chairman and Commissioners, for giving us a few minutes this morning to celebrate this achievement. As mentioned in the memo, Johnson County is proud to be just the 25th local government in the world to achieve this certification on behalf of its community. And we're very proud of that. And as Mrs. Postoke Ferguson mentioned, this is a LEED for Cities and Community certification. Different than the LEED for Building certification that Johnson County has a deep history of pursuing and achieving, and most of us are knowledgeable about and and where our minds go to when we hear of LEED. But this LEED for Cities and Communities certification aims to measure the sustainability and standard of living for entire communities. So this is a celebration of Johnson County as a whole. And what that means and why we pursued it is it recognizes the good work that we instinctively know that Johnson County pursues and happens in Johnson County, not just by our organization, of course, but by the entire whole community that makes us great. And so measuring our performance in areas like, sectors like natural systems and ecology reflect our priorities of parks and open space, assessing quality of life metrics on high school graduation rates and crime rates reflect our values of education and safety. And so in those terms, there weren't a whole lot of surprises in a lot of those sectors, but it's always great to verify that we're doing what we think we're doing and we say we're doing, and we take a tremendous amount of pride in that. But what we get most excited about, and I can speak for the Sustainability Committee as well, is there are areas that were identified as opportunities for improvement. And that's also why we pursued this certification. We wanted to pinpoint what work needed to be done to better benchmark ourselves against other communities and identify areas that we need to be better in. And we know those. We know what some of those are, and we need to be able to measure those and use those as marching orders for ourselves and our community. And so we know that we can make improvements in our transportation opportunities, our greenhouse gas emissions. We can reduce waste. All of those become, again, our marching orders for us. As a sustainability program manager, it's hard to manage what we don't measure. This gives us a tool to measure how we benchmark ourselves against like communities and what we need to be taking pride in and what we need to be motivated to do better in. And we're excited about that. So we're equal parts proud and motivated. Thanks again for helping us celebrate. And we'll have an opportunity later this summer to celebrate with the U.S. Green Building Council, some national leaders and some local leaders on this achievement, and that we take great pride in, and we hope you do too. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for your good work, and glad to give an opportunity to celebrate this achievement. Thank you very much, Brian. Questions, Ms. O'Hara?
Yes, I'm just curious, how much staff time does it take to get these certifications? Is this an in-depth, time-consuming process?
It was not terribly in-depth. I mean, this was information that is already out there that we assembled. So it did require pulling maps from Ames. It required pulling data from facilities. It required reaching out to utilities to get consumption rates on things. But, you know, this is information that we think we know, but we needed to verify. And so we assembled it all together and kind of herded the cats of all the good work that we know goes on to assemble in some coherent fashion to help us
Could you
understand.
just, it's not pressing, but I would just be curious if you could just give me an estimate of the amount of staff time that it takes to do these types of certifications. I'm just curious.
I could try.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hansley.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Alferman, for being here today. I am so proud of Johnson County for being one of only 25 communities in the world to achieve this gold LEED for cities and communities. I know that we are a shining example and model for many other places. And I want to especially thank you and the members of the Sustainability Committee for your leadership. I don't know if people remember, about a year ago, we found out that Johnson County was one of only, I don't know, a handful or communities in the United States chosen by the U.S. Green Building Council to receive a technical assistance grant to do this study. And you know, COVID certainly has impacted that, but it was a lot of information gathering, but everybody put in their part. And thank you for consolidating all that information. And I do think you're absolutely right. We want to stop and celebrate, but we aren't done yet. I think the next level up is platinum. Is that correct? Yeah. So that's our next goal, is to get platinum. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and thanks for mentioning the grant. We did receive that grant in 2020, a technical assistance grant. So USGBC really provided all of the technical assistance guidance that really mapped out what information we needed to gather. So in terms of staff time and people time spent, it was mostly USGBC time freely spent on us. And then, of course, there were no fees to get the certification. So out-of-pocket costs were zero. Personnel costs and people costs were mostly USGBC and us doing what they asked us to do.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Alferman, thank you for your comments, your clarifications, because I was going to have a follow-on to Commissioner O'Hare's question. I had forgotten about that grant arrangement. But I particularly liked your comment about it's hard to manage what's not measured. I just appreciated it. That resonated.
I knew you would.
That resonated with me.
Thank you. Mr. Myers.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Offerman. I also appreciate all the work. I think the verification is very important. Like you said, are we doing what we think we're doing, not only for this organization, but also for the residents of Johnson County? I also believe that there's some truth to trickle-down theory, that when other communities see what we are doing, it causes them to want to strive to do some of the same things. And I think that's extremely important, and Johnson County being a leadership in that endeavor is very important. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Fast.
Yes, I believe this wouldn't happen without your leadership, Brian. And having a sustainability coordinator helps bring in additional funds, brings resources together to move the train forward. And the sustainability committee, in our county, served on the solid waste committee, as Commissioner Myers has, their leadership, and then all the community stakeholders that have come together. It's just been amazing the last year. The summit, we were on Saturday, hundreds of people. I mean, it was packed at Yardley Hall. I mean, the importance of sustainability, and you look at our survey, is number one. I think, I hope you come back. I talked to you on Saturday that I would like to see, we've done a lot, and to see that data, like Johnson County Community College has identified the data and the impacts they've had. We have an energy efficiency manager. What have they done to reduce tax savings and save energy? So I'd like to, when you have in your spare time at some point. So thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you and your staff. I know how hard and difficult this is to get, and you should be very, very proud of the accomplishments with your leadership. It's evident that people love to live in Johnson County, and this is just one of the reasons why. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Truly a team effort.
Brian, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Next item.
Yes, let's give Brian and team a hand. Next item, I've asked Joe Connor to help me introduce to you, and I think you met him one-on-one this morning, but to formally introduce you to a new executive, Tim Wolf, the Aging and Human Services Director, and this is his first week, so thank you and welcome. And so, Joe, I'll let you share a little bit more about Tim.
Sure, thank you, Penny. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Joe Connor, Assistant County Manager. I'm extremely happy to be standing here before you today to introduce one of our new executives for Aging and Human Services Department, Tim Wolf. I'll let Tim talk a little bit about his background, but I think we've heard you loud and clear about what the priorities are for our government, for our communities, and that's in the human services area, especially the seniors and those that are just need a little extra help getting through some tough times. So an important component of that is going to be good leadership, and I feel like through the interview process and in the first few days that Tim's been here, I think we've made a great choice there. He's going to be able to lead us and the other human services departments to provide efficient and effective services for folks that need it in our community. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim and introduce Tim Wolf.
Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. It was so great to meet you guys this morning, so I appreciate you guys giving me a few minutes.
Bring the microphone a little closer.
A little bit closer?
Yes.
How's that? Better?
There you go.
All right. But again, thank you for...
You're taller than Joe.
Yeah. Thanks. So a little bit about my background. I've spent the last 32 plus years with the state of Missouri. I grew up as a state government employee, and what I've spent my career doing is working with vulnerable populations. And that's where my passion is at, is really making sure that our populations that need us, need the community to be supportive of them, are taken care of, and that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that everybody is treated the same. And so that's what my passion has been. That's what my passion is going to continue to be. I am so looking forward to this opportunity. I think that the history that I've known of Johnson County throughout my years has been amazing, and so I am excited to be a part of that leadership team, but more importantly to work with and to grow from the leadership team that's here at Johnson County. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Tim, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Okay, next item. You have at your place a file of life form. It's a magnet, and I'd like to highlight the service provided by Johnson County MedAct. They provide a file of life form to our residents at no charge. This simple tool allows patients to post a mini medical history, and you can see that it's a piece of paper you pull out, and you can fill it out and fold it back up and put it on your refrigerator to provide paramedics a place to look for this critical information. And Allison Angel, Community Education Specialist, is here today to share some additional details about this service.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. This service is free to all of our residents here in Johnson County, Kansas, and it's really simple to get. All they have to do is call our office, we'll ask for their name and their address, and we'll immediately send one out to them. It's super simple. They place this on their refrigerator as long as they remember to fill out the form once they get it. We have come to homes where we have to remind them to fill out the form for next time. But these are super critical when our patients end up being, let's say, incapacitated in some way. Or if they are unable to speak for themselves and maybe their friend or family member that's there doesn't know all of their medical history, these come in great handy to us because medical conditions and prescription medications can be written on the back. And that way, if we need to treat them in some way between their house and the hospital, we can make sure we're not giving them any medications that would have some sort of contraindication with something they're already taking. So these are great help. It also allows us to know who we would call in that emergency if we need to get a hold of a family member, and we can also pass this on to the hospital when we get them there. So these are great. Again, they can call the MedAct offices. Our ladies at our front office staff, they will take down their name and address, and we'll have more of these coming in here in the next week or two from the print shop so we can get them out right away.
Okay. I'm sorry, perhaps you said this, but if I want to receive one of these, how do I get my hands on it?
Absolutely. You can just call our MedAct offices. That number is 715-1950. And our ladies at the office, they'll take your name and your address, and we will mail one out to you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Very good.
Yeah.
Ms. Hanslick.
Yes, thank you. This is such a cool thing. I'm so excited to be able to tell more people about it. And I just wanted to say, I certainly hope you'll get together with our new Director of Aging and Human Services. I think it'd be great to make sure we get this out, especially to our seniors at various opportunities. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this, and I was going to say something along similar lines, that maybe Mr. Wolf could, we could get these and then take them out to Meals on Wheels and our homebound seniors, this would be a great tool to go.
And we've done that in the past, and we would love to continue doing that. Absolutely.
I'm sure he's going to be all over it.
Absolutely. We're right next. We're right next door to your offices, so you can pop by anytime. Anytime.
Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I too, I think it's a great idea. My hope is that we can get these out to as many people as possible. I know I will use mine myself. Most people, including my family members, say they will not give me mouth-to-mouth, but anyway, I think it's a great idea to have those list of medications and all of that background right there for emergency services. Thank you.
And we do say that if you have 2 people in your home and you need them, we can absolutely send 2 out. We just ask that, once this is folded up, if you just write on this plastic on the outside your name, and then obviously the one that would be for your other person in your household, put their name on it. Because usually we can get someone to say, oh yeah, that's Jeff Myers versus Mrs. Myers. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes,
Good idea. Good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for your time today.
Awesome, thank you. Chairman, the next item, the Board of Zoning Appeals decision. On March 30th, the Board of Zoning Appeals, BZA, approved a request for a reduced front yard setback to allow construction of a single-family residence on property located at 15790 Gardner East Road. Details of the BZA's decision and record have been provided to you in a summary with attachments. For any variance granted by the BZA, the zoning regulations require that the BOCC shall, within 2 weeks after receipt thereof, either approve the decision of the BZA or it shall call for a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and reconsidering such decision. With receipt of the BZA report on April 14th, the board has until April 28th to decide whether to call a public hearing or to let the approval become final. The BZA recommended approval of this variance. Staff also recommends that the board take no action, therefore allowing the BZA decision to become final on April 28th. And Michelle Leiniger from Planning is in attendance and Jay Leipzig as well, if you have questions.
Thank you. All right, next item.
Okay. The City of Olathe has notified the board that they will be conducting a public hearing on Tuesday, April 19th. The purpose of the hearing is to consider the issuance of $2.2 million in industrial revenue bonds and a 50% 10-year property tax abatement. The project is a 15,800 square foot facility located at 15410 South Mahaffey Street in Olathe. The project applicant is Griswold Industries. The notice of public hearing and cost-benefit ratio illustrating a 3.63 cost-benefit ratio for Johnson County were attached to the manager's memo. And Chairman, with that, that finalizes my report.
Okay. Any questions? All right, next item.
Next item is COVID-19 funding and expense report, and Becky Jones will be giving this report.
Ms. Jones.
I'm not as tall. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Becky Jones from Financial Management and Administration. Before you today are the COVID-19 operating reports as of March 31st, 2022. The net change in the balance of the state and local fiscal recovery funds is $23,205,000. This is attributed to $9,968 in interest earnings for December, offset by banking fees of $6,064, March payroll cost for grant administration of $5,633, COVID-19 testing services of $38,982, contact tracing and case investigation of $259,862, lost revenue of $22,568,349, crisis communication of $6,000, and open encumbrances to Widow Bryan's of $125,282. The next report is for the Countywide Support Fund, CSF, shows the $22,568,349 transfer in from the SLFRF lost revenue, which was approved by the board on March 17th, 2022. And lastly, the other direct funding report, departments reported an increase in expenses of $218,659, an increase in revenues of $53,625, and an increase in funding of $1,731,860. The closed grants have been removed from these reports, and I will stand for any questions that you may have.
Ms. O'Hara?
So expenditures on contact tracing, have those services stopped? Are we still doing contact tracing on cases of COVID?
We are still doing some, but they have dropped significantly. This 260,000, keep in mind, was from January and February when we were dealing with the Omicron variant. The last invoices that we received were closer to around $10,000, so they have significantly dropped off.
So what's the parameters, what's the decision point as to whether we're going to do contact tracing or not? Do you know?
I would actually defer to DHE for that.
I'll just hold my questions for the report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now we'll turn to a COVID update.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Elizabeth Holshoe, Director of Epidemiology, Department of Health and Environment. Today, we're just going to go through the dashboard and highlight where we are in terms of COVID burden on our community. So looking at the same two metrics that we've looked at for probably 2 years now, incidence rate is now up to 57 per 100,000, and you can see here in our graph that it has increased from its low several weeks ago, as well as our percent positivity has also increased to 5.9%. Now, I will say that with the current advent of at-home tests and the availability in our community, these numbers are likely dramatically undercounting what is happening in our community. And we can see this in some of the reports that the Department of Health and Environment is receiving these days, including a number of outbreaks or clusters in various settings, including daycares, schools, as well as business places. And so when we look at this, in addition to some of our wastewater sampling, which is also showing an increase in concentration through Johnson County, it does appear as though BA2, which has hit other countries as well as other states, is here and causing an impact. Again, what we have consistently looked at is going to be an underrepresentation, but seeing that increase as well as what we're hearing shows that we are seeing an uptick in cases, and that people should be aware that if they are at high risk or gathering in large venues, that they should likely be masked as an extra precaution to prevent transmission at this time. On our vaccination progress, you can see here, I will say that there's been an update and that our vaccination tab has usually been updated every Wednesdays. However, due to some changes at KDHE, those will now be Friday updates. So this will be the same data that you have seen for the past week. You can see that based on our data, and again, these are going to be individuals who are vaccinated in Kansas, about 68% are fully vaccinated. But really what we want to look at in particular are the age breakdowns here and here, where we see our 5 to 11-year-olds are still only at about 36% fully vaccinated. And I would anticipate this is probably a more reliable data point than our adults, as if you recall when vaccines were initially rolled out, people were sort of searching all over to get the vaccines and traveling to other states. By the time kids were eligible to be vaccinated, probably the majority of them got vaccinated in their home state or in Johnson County. And so we have seen, as I said, an uptick in cases. BA2 is here. And so just making sure everybody is aware that even though the CDC's community levels are indicating we are green, what that really means is that if you get ill with COVID-19, there is a hospital bed for you. That new community level that shows the green maps is really more about hospital capacity. And at this time, we have seen maybe a slight uptick in hospitalizations per CDC's website. But as you know, these are lagging indicators. So we'll see those cases go up first, followed by those hospitalizations. And even though we were hit with Omicron in January, and some people have thought that we may not see some impacts on our hospitalizations, I'm not entirely ready to rule that out given what we've seen in places like the UK, who had similar Omicron surges, and then their BA2 surges equaled the same number of hospitalizations for that country. So we will continue to watch this and monitor and provide guidance as appropriate. So at this time, I'll stand for questions.
Questions? Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are we still offering the booster vaccines? Do we have clinics still set up? Do they need to go online to register for those?
So we are doing booster vaccine clinics as part of our routine vaccination clinics, so they can come into our health department and get the vaccine.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. O'Hara?
Oh, thank you. Yes, back to the contact tracing and case investigating. What benchmarks are we using to indicate that you are doing that type of work?
Yes, ma'am. So I will say, given the previous presentation, we have decreased our staffing from our contact tracing and case investigators from about 30 at the beginning of January, now down to 3. We ended most of their contracts in the middle or end of March. So these 3 individuals, it's really about 2.5 FTEs worth, are really focusing on kids and following up on daycares, as well as, for instance, today we got a report of about 25 cases from a single school district, which is a dramatic increase, but the majority of those don't have labs in our system because of, we assume, at-home tests. So our case investigators will be following up with those families to try and determine if they were at-home tests and see if there are links in that school that are causing that transmission within the school district. So for the most part, we're focusing on kids and really focusing on that case investigation and not really contact tracing. So just obtaining information, trying to determine if spread occurred in a facility, for instance, a daycare or a school district.
So the severity, are these mild symptoms?
So that's the struggle, is that we don't know if they're mild or severe symptoms until we call and interview those families. So they generally will call, find out if they did an at-home test, for instance, if we don't have record of it, and then interview them about their symptoms.
What if the families don't want to participate?
And that's absolutely fine. They can either choose not to return our phone call, which we have that a lot, or they can refuse to participate, and that's absolutely acceptable.
Okay, and then on the 36% vaccination rate on the 5 to 11-year-olds, what do you think is the cause of that?
I think it's a number of things, truthfully. I think that, we saw some slow uptake in our 12 to 16-year-olds when those were available early, and then that did pick up, and now those rates actually mimic what our adult rates are, which I think is really excellent. So I think that there are families who are waiting a little bit longer, potentially until it becomes authorized, as opposed to being approved, as opposed to being EUA, emergency use authorization. I think that those are choices that parents are making, hopefully in conjunction with their pediatricians.
Okay, so it's only the 5 to 11-year-olds that's emergency use, or is this all, does this emergency use, does this cover all age groups?
No, so the adult Pfizer vaccine has been fully approved at this point.
So that would
16 and
cover
up.
from 16 and up?
I believe so. Has the 12?
So the 12 to 16, is that still under emergency
EUA.
use?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Ms. Hansley?
Thank you. I just had a question, and perhaps you can refer me to the best source of information. But a couple weeks ago, I went and had my second booster, no problems. But I've had a couple people say to me that they want to wait because they'd rather wait till we potentially have a big surge, and then they'll get the booster, because they don't want it to run out of efficacy. Do you have any information for those folks who are hesitant to get their second boosters? Should they wait, or should they get it now, or is it kind of looking in a crystal ball?
That's an excellent question. I heard somebody refer to trying to time your boosters to the same idea as timing the stock market. Where maybe that's not the most advisable recommendation, because what we are seeing now, again, even though it's undercounted, we know that it's here and it is going to hit us. The question will be how hard and what is the impact on our community and our hospitals. So I certainly think that if you are a high risk or in that age group and have comorbidities, then I would recommend you go ahead and get that, as we know that the immunity does wane fairly quickly, but we are going to be hit with BA2 here fairly soon. I mean, it's already in our community. So that timing does become a difficult piece. So certainly if you're in that age group and at high risk, definitely would recommend that second booster.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners.
Are there any other items on our reports and communications?
No, sir.
Okay. Ms. O'Hara?
I did have one other, whoops, there I looked.
Ms.
That's
Ms.
okay.
Ogiel?
That's okay. I'll just ask Penny. Any communications that the DHE has with daycare centers and the school districts, I would like copies of it.
Well, that will depend upon what kind of communications occur.
Well, that would be public record because it's not any employee thing. It's just recommendations between DHE and the school districts or daycare centers. That's all I want.
I will ask the staff to look at that and come back if it's appropriate. So,
Thank you
very much. Sometimes health issues are confidential information. So,
Not between the DHE and the daycare centers. That would be all public information, and from between the DHE and the school districts.
the appropriate information is always shared. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, turning to commission comments, Ms. Fast.
You can go the other way. I just had a brain drop.
All right, we'll go to the vice chair.
I'll do it. Let's see, I attended on Saturday, went to the opening of Cedar Nile Park, and it was a wonderful day and great weather, and what a great park. So you need to go out and visit it, and I want to congratulate the Johnson County Parks and Rec for putting that together. It was very well done. Yesterday, we had a Commission on Aging meeting, and we got to meet our new director, Mr. Wolf, and everyone is excited about him attending. We also want to get out to, I want to just take note of the Older Americans Act, and I would just like to take a second to read it. The Older Americans Act, OAA, provides critical services such as home-delivered and congregate meals, family caregiving support, in-home assistance, prevention health services, transportation, job training, protection from abuse, and other supportive services that help about 11 million older adults that live independently as possible. In fiscal year of 2019, OAA federal funding was $2.06 billion. Funding for the program has failed to keep up with inflation, and increased demand has rapidly aging population. So we want to make sure that we get out to all those that are living independently in their home. That's something that we're trying to do. And also, I'd also like to let everyone know that dirt is moving at New Century Commerce Center. So we're working on the infrastructure. If you go out there now, you see the earth moving, and they're making way for the trailer for the first new building.
Thank you. Commissioner Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Mr. Chairman, tomorrow's Good Friday, and Easter Sunday is coming, and I think Passover starts tomorrow, so I want to wish everyone a good season, a family season, and a remembrance season. I was kind of, as you know, I have an interest in history, and I was looking at my calendar, and just a few days ago was the 161st anniversary of the falling of Fort Sumter. And today is actually the reflagging anniversary for Fort Sumter, which is one of those historical artifacts that's kind of in the bygone era. But it's also brought to mind that tomorrow is the anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's death. And that was one of the deaths I would suggest, Mr. Chairman. It probably changed the course of American history like no other. So I just wanted to share that and wish everyone a good Easter or Passover season.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Hansley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've had quite a busy week this past week, so I'm going to try to be brief. First of all, on Saturday, as Commissioner Fast alluded to, I had the opportunity to attend the Climate Summit, and it was a lot of very helpful and great information. And I'm very proud to say I also took the bus down to Johnson County Community College from my home.
Got there in time.
It was easy, great, no problem. It worked great. So really appreciate Climate Action KC for putting on that climate summit. And KCATA had an electric bus there, and lots of good information was shared. On Tuesday, had the opportunity to attend the Overland Park Mayor's State of the City address. Congratulations to new Mayor Kurt Skoog. It was a new format for the city of Overland Park. I know a number of commissioners and staff were there, and the future is bright for Overland Park. So it's a great opportunity. Also on Tuesday, I'm actually the new representative or liaison from the board to the Mark Air Quality Forum, and we had a meeting on Tuesday. A couple of highlights from that is we did have the ozone season report, and I was glad to hear that at this point in time, we're not expecting abnormally hot or wet weather during the coming year. That doesn't mean we won't have hot or wet weather, but it won't be, it's not anticipated to be abnormal. We also talked about the EPA Clean Truck Initiative overview. I think as most people know and understand, transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. It represents 29% of all emissions, and the EPA is setting stronger regulations to reduce greenhouse gases and nitrogen oxides. And then finally, yesterday, Commissioner Fast and I both participated in the 2022 Kansas Mental Health Summit. The theme was improving court and community response to behavioral health issues. And want to thank Judge Winnell, our very own Judge Winnell from the district court here. He was a leader of this summit. We had a lot of very good speakers and lots of good discussions. Many people may not realize, but 30% of our jail population in Johnson County has been diagnosed with a severe mental illness. And so really appreciate the opportunity to learn about what we're doing. And again, as not surprising, Johnson County is a leader in the state in innovative ideas, in implementing ways to help keep folks who have severe mental illness out of the justice system and getting the treatment they need. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Chairman. This week I attended the Council of the Whole for the Johnson County Parks Recreation District. We were setting dates and having discussion on budget presentations. That went very well. I also attended the Cedar Niles Park ribbon cutting. Again, I agree, it was a very nice day and very nice event. And then the third thing, I also attended the Overland Park State of the City, and thought it was very well done, and there's a lot of exciting things going on in Johnson County.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I was introduced to Tim Wolf, who is going to be the director of our Department on Aging, and I just wanted to mention to him publicly, as I did privately, that Pam Shernock, who is my appointment on, well, actually was Steve Click's appointment on the Council of Aging, her chairing that council, that she is a wonderful asset, and that he should make himself available to her expertise. And was very nice to meet him this morning. And then on our WIFIA, the WIFIA bonds that we have put off until we have further confirmation from the federal government, that I will be asking the commission to consider having our internal audit make sure that they have financial oversight of each expenditure out of that $281,456,000. I think that financial oversight is extremely important, and that's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fast. Did you have any comment?
Yes, I just want to, the Cedar Creek Trail is just amazing. Was at the river ribbon cutting, and I just want to shout out to Parks and Rec. Shawnee Mission Post had people rate their top parks, and 4 of the 5 were county parks. I mean, it just says a lot about our county parks, and their community survey rating is just astronomical compared to any park system in the nation. Also attended the Overland Park State of the City, very excited. They highlighted their mental health crisis intervention team leading the way, and they have a therapeutic dog, Haven, who I got to meet and Penny got to meet, and I feel better already. And the Mental Health Summit, just a lot of good data that we need to glean about when there was mental health deinstitutionalization and mental health reform in the 90s, Kansas. And I'm not saying that shouldn't have happened, but instead of community-based supports, we have seen in the last 20 years skyrocketing numbers of people with mental illness in our jail and languish and reincarcerated. And so we went from deinstitutionalization to incarceration. And so that, I mean, it was just, and I'm really excited that our judge is leading the way on a mental health treatment court, and that we have the Stepping Up initiative that other counties don't. Only 5 counties have that. So we're working to do the assessment before someone is jailed and assist them after they're jailed. But to prevent jail, once somebody is jailed, it really impacts their mental health status, their family status, and so forth.
Okay, thank you. We do have a committee of the whole meeting scheduled this afternoon at 1 p.m. to receive the information about the community survey. And this evening at 6 p.m., we have a joint meeting with the library board, and that'll be at Central Resource Library in Overland Park on 87th Street. And next Wednesday, April 20th, we have a joint board meeting with Johnson County Parks and Rec, and that will be held at the clubhouse at Meadowbrook Park, and I believe that one begins at 5:30 p.m. So we do have a request for an executive session of 10 minutes. We have agenda review yet to complete. So we are at about 10:51. I would suggest that we allow about 30 or 35 minutes for our agenda review, and then have a 10-minute executive session. So at 10:51, let's have a motion to begin the executive session at 11:35 for a period of 10 minutes.
I need to move to.
Yes, I'm waiting.
I'm trying to get this down. I move the board recess its open meeting to convene an executive session at 11:35. Would that be right?
That's right.
For a period of 10 minutes for the purposes of discussing impending litigation and preservation of attorney-client privilege, and to reconvene in open session in the room at approximately 11:45 or soon thereafter, the executive session may end.
Hanslick, second.
Alan Brand made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion in regards to the timing of the executive session. Any questions or comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Myers, Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. Have 7 votes in favor, motion carried. We are in recess. We will reconvene at 11 to complete or begin our agenda review, followed by the executive session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.